All right, you guys, we have loaded Pod 47. Not only do we have a special guest on today in Geoff Nguyen, Nguyen for the win, the GM and owner of our very own Bay Area Breakers, but we also are doing a full breakdown of the Midseason tournament in Beer City in Grand Rapids, the tournament with many names. And we are going to break down more than just the game footage, but all the fun stuff that is begging to be talked about. What else did I miss?
We're going to be analyzing this news about the UPA going international. What does that really mean? And we've got our take on what could possibly be the worst line call in pickleball history.
You have your chance. Is it in or out? Let's go. We're in on this pod, Pod 47.
And we are in Aspen Heaven.
You're tuned in now to this pickleball life. I'm K-Dubs and Chili B is my wife. She's the pro and I've got the filler. She's sweet to me, but on the court she's a killer. Unadulterated and efficiently bringing you the best and worst things in PB. Tell your friends and stay for another. And no one loves us more than your mother. One thing's for sure, one hit and you're addicted. Grab a pal, grab a court, don't resist it. So click subscribe, let's go, let's get cracking. Thing song done, let's go, let's get laughing. This pickleball life.
In case you missed it, we are not at home.
We're on Kristen's parents' patio.
It would be really funny, though, if we green screened a mountain in the background of our Indian Wells house.
So this is not a road pod. It's a patio pod.
Patio Road Pod.
Patio Road Pod, you guys. Aspen, in case you missed it, Aspen is magical. I've lived in Spain with a family and traveled all over Spain. I've spent 3 months traveling throughout Italy.
I mean, you're skipping over the origin story.
What?
Newport Beach.
Yeah, from Newport Beach.
We lived in San Francisco. We lived in Palo Alto.
We travel all over the country for all these different beautiful pickleball tournaments.
Spent so much time in Florida and way too much time in Texas.
And Aspen's one of a kind. I mean, it's like Swiss Alps style, right? It's like you have this
amazing.
The weather. And you've got like the perpetual rustling of the aspen tree leaves that create this like amazing wind chime in the backdrop of your life while you're here.
They're called quakes.
Are they really?
Quaking aspens. It's a thing. Yeah.
Well, the aspens are quaking.
Learning the word poplar as a child. That's what kind of tree an aspen is. And what's fun fact, aspen trees are the largest organism in the world because under the ground, they're like all one tree. They're clones.
Whoa.
So when you see a grove of quaking aspens, that's a lot of catchphrases right there. It's all one organism. So they're like massive.
That is awesome. I did not know that. Thank you, K-Dubs.
They may not be the tallest, but they're the biggest.
Wow. Well, regardless, Aspen, or because of Aspen, is magical.
Yeah. In case you missed it.
Wait, sorry. I want to add one thing. We've been biking. Electric bikes, you guys. Hey,
yes.
if you don't...
Cheater bikes.
Cheater bikes.
Shameless. I'll admit it.
The way to go is an electric bike. So we've been biking. We've been hiking.
But you know what...
We've been sleeping.
You know what the perfect parallel to an e-bike is? Is pickleball. Because I always say pickleball is exactly as much exercise as you let it be. And that is an e-bike.
Is the e-bike the Gen 3 of bikes?
No.
Minimal effort.
Yes and no.
Massive force.
Pretty sure we were on the Gen 2 version. Yeah. the sort of helping.
But it's been an awesome little respite. You know, was supposed to have a kind of a 30-day off season and then decided to enter the waiver wire for MLP. So that got truncated to 2 weeks. But we've been training at high altitude, playing, biking, and yeah, it's been great.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying my hometown as much as I get to enjoy yours. We spend way more time in Jill's hometown of Newport Beach. But every now and then, we make it out here to Colorado.
In fact, Kristen's parents have an unfinished basement that we're selfishly helping clear out because we think if we can get it cleared out by next August, we can move here for a month with the 3 cats.
Yes. Toby, we're coming.
All right, in case you missed it, Kristen, lead us off.
All right, the UPA is going international. I don't think anyone missed it because they forced every single signed player to post about it 3 days ago. But it feels like a little bit more of a panic move because there are some other big international
Huge.
announcements coming very soon that we are not quite at liberty to share,
Yep.
but you will be hearing more about maybe by the time this pod is out.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this too is when you have 100 plus signed contracted players, many of whom have taken really large reductions in their salaries, you can start to get a little nervous when other tours or other entities come out with huge news, which we are going to have, as Kristin alluded to, this really big international news coming. And if there's all this prize money that I think there's going to be, and you're a salary contracted player, you're looking at that as an opportunity you're missing out on.
Right.
So I think the UPA had to come out and say, no, look, we're offering, 5 more international prize money events. We're going to compete with this other entity now.
Yeah, and they've so far obviously spent their load, so to speak, on player salaries for the next 3 years. So they kind of have their hands sort of tied on how much more they can throw at prize money, hence what we've seen this year. All right, Jill's back on the wasp hunt. She is aiming, she's calculating, and fire. It's on mist.
It's on mist. Dad, he set me up for failure. I needed it on that.
Now it's on attack. Fun fact, okay, maybe not fun fact. Fun fact, Jill got stung by a wasp when we were here for our wedding. And during our wedding, one of her hands was swollen 3 times larger than its normal size.
It was like elephantitis. We'll put a photo in.
Luckily not your ring hand. She spent the entire wedding with her hand in an ice bucket. So it was like we had to order champagne just to have an ice bucket.
Really, really, really high on Benadryl, altitude, and champagne for our Aspen August wedding
You
3 years
found,
ago.
A perfect cocktail of like calamine lotion, aloe vera,
Benadryl, and an ice bucket.
ice.
Slept with my hand in a champagne ice bucket.
Anyway, so back to pickleball.
So I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to
international.
explain about the international and salaried players and these other financial opportunities that come about.
Yeah.
And that's how we saw the creation of Vibe, right?
Yeah.
The PPA signed players were upset that there were all these economic opportunities being offered by Major League Pickleball. And that was
They
the
were missing
creation of Vibe.
Yeah. FOMO runs the world.
It does. Well said.
Yeah.
Is that the title of the pod?
In case you missed it, it was an MLP last week. And in case you missed it, I was there and Jill was not. We had the only time all year, all 22 teams in the same place at the same time.
Why wasn't I there?
Jill was resting. Care to elaborate on that one?
It's a 20-minute pod because we have this interview with Geoff Nguyen coming up, but I want to make the editing as difficult as possible for the 20 minutes. Like, I want to see how long it takes to edit this. It's only 20 minutes.
Well, I'm playing golf tomorrow, so you can. Fun fact, I've played like 4 rounds of golf all year, and this week I will have played 3 rounds of golf.
Okay, in case you missed it, this isn't in the notes. This one, K-Dubs, had a hole-in-one.
With an asterisk. It's the asterisk era.
It's the asterisk. Okay, she keeps saying there's an asterisk because they moved our tees forward. Kristin, you played in a tournament and had a hole-in-one. I don't care if it was 55 yards. And it was a hard shot. You said it yourself. You're like, I had to either make it or I was going to roll off the back, right?
Yeah, it was behind a bunker. It was 52 yards. It was with my Mac Daddy from like 4 years ago because I had to scrounge for a set of clubs from the random clubs I have given my dad.
No, this is so annoying. She hasn't been practicing. It's not her own set of current clubs that she plays. She's in a different altitude, having to use meters instead of yards, which is kind of the growth hack for measuring distances.
Write that down if you're a golfer.
And so she gets hole number 6?
17.
No, sorry.
like
How many hole-in-ones have you had?
5.
Sickening. I hate
that
you.
made for 5.
I have 1.
4.5 as I like to think.
I have 1, which is the number of fish I caught.
Yeah.
Fly fishing.
Buddy. Yes. My dad caught 4 and Jill caught 1, but
I
Jill's was
hooked.
the biggest.
It was. I don't know if they said that to make me feel better because I only caught 1.
They could tell you
We'll
were competitive
never
and they were trying
know.
to throw you a bone.
Actually, the guide gave me a huge compliment after I kept like they kept nibbling, and I just couldn't hook them. And
To be fair, that is like the skill part of fishing.
okay. All right. Well, my bobber would go down, and it actually is called a bobber.
No, there's several skills. That's one of them.
And the guy, and I see my bobber go down, and I'm like, pickleball reactions. I'm so quick on the hook, and I still, missed a bunch of fish. And I'd be like, mother effer, did you see that? I had him. I had you. I'm coming. And the guy looks at me, the guide, and goes, I bet you're really something to watch on the pickleball court. Are you an animal on the pickleball court? You seem really competitive. I was like, yeah, I'm a little competitive.
Yeah, the animal is how they describe me. So yeah, fishing, Jill went with my dad. I opted out. Not much of a fisher woman, but they had a fun day.
So fun. On a float boat.
Roaring Fork River. And I had a hole-in-one. It's been a big week.
Huge.
And then I randomly got asked to fill in for someone who is a victim of, CrowdStrike? Her flight
The
got
Microsoft
canceled.
software.
She couldn't come in for another tournament in Aspen. So now I'm playing in another tournament the next 2 days.
At the gorgeous Maroon Creek Country Club in Aspen. Life's tough, Kristin. I want to come back as you in my next life.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Well, I always say I wanted to come back in my next life as a guest at a member guest. So this is halfway there.
All right. So you were saying it was MLP. It was
Yep.
the only time all 22
Back to
teams were in
pickleball.
the same place.
Grand Rapids, Beer City, and also called the Midseason event. This is like the name of all names of pickleball event.
And you were their
But-
assistant general managing
Yes.
for the Bay Area Breakers.
Yes. I was making sure that people were fed and clothed and happy. And no, Scott Crandall is one of my new favorite people of all times. Of all time?
You're just catching up to where I've been.
Yeah. No, I think you're catching up to where I've been, but I've just finally had access. When you get to book the flights, I get to subject Scott Crandall to having to sit next to me for 5 hours.
Kristin is definitely that person that sits next to a stranger on a plane, and it's like, so are you going home or leaving home?
Yeah, that's my line.
And I get next to someone on a plane.
Jill's move is noise canceling headphones.
Noise canceling headphones, a hoodie, a hat on top of that, a mask, and just in my own universe.
Asleep. Or watching Harry Potter.
Tell me you're an introvert without telling me you're an introvert.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be some challenger teams facing off against premier teams, and then I guess both premier and challenger teams didn't like the idea of that.
Yeah,
so they
that
decided to have
alienated
two separate
everyone.
brackets. And we ended up with Pablo Tellez winning for his team on Brooklyn. We're going to get more into that later, as well as Annalie Waters finally bringing home the bacon for the fives.
Well, in case you missed it, new technology was implemented from none other than Kyle Selenko, who is the owner of Boxcar Productions, which had produced the super high quality coverage you were so familiar with back in MLP seasons 1 and 2, way back when. And his partner, Eddie from Eddie and Webby. And this company is called Close Call Replay. So if you've listened to other podcasts, you've probably heard all about the buzz since it was used at MLP Beer City Open. And it was amazing stuff. One of my least favorite things is, as a player and as a viewer, having to wait 5 minutes while a blurry image of a ball is analyzed by 4 different referees. And they
still get it wrong.
And they still get it wrong.
And you're like, wait, what?
Yep.
At
So
one point,
really refreshing to see this done so quickly is my point. There's
Yeah.
nothing to kill the flow, the mojo of a game than that.
Totally. Unfortunately, they didn't have this technology on the rainy day, the first day, when they moved venues, and we were subject to what many are calling the worst line call in history.
Do you want to talk about that right now?
We're going to get into that later, but
Okay.
I think let's finish the in case you missed it.
We're moving on to paddle talk, actually. We only have a couple things under our new segment, paddle talk. Like pillow talk, but paddles. So you were a part of MLP, Kristin, when the testing fiasco
Yes.
occurred.
So
So tell us about that.
the text came through saying, basically, we're not paddle testing today. And then it came back through and said, to be clear, we are still paddle testing for grit, but not deflection. Then they kind of pivoted and said that we discovered the machinery had been damaged
In transit.
And so I believe by the last 2 days, they were back to normal testing. But it was the first day for premiere, so the day 2. it was like 5 minutes before the game was supposed to start, and no one could find a paddle that would pass. So they had to play something.
So all in all, paddle testing is still very much in its infancy. Like I said, I've always appreciated that. Pro Pickle Labs or Pickle Pro Labs. I never remember which word comes first in that, ever.
I know.
PPL.
It's always the one you don't want it to be. That's
Shoot.
how I remember it.
I think it's Pro Pickle Labs.
No, I think it's Pickle Pro Labs.
There you go. It's the one you don't want.
Because it's
like you said.
You'd think it'd be like professional Pickle Labs.
Yes,
like labs
correct.
For pickle, but instead it's Pickle Pro Labs.
Okay.
So,
glad we got that squared
yeah.
away. So I still really respect and appreciate everything that they're doing, and the tours are doing to try and push paddle testing forward. So
it's just such a moving target.
it's just such a mess, you know.
Yeah. So the velocity testing can't come soon enough, in my opinion, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who disagreed with that.
Yeah.
So in other paddle news, Gamma is not only about to release their Airbender Thin 10 and 13s. Jill plays the 13. But they're also about to release the Airbender Thick. Yes, we are talking 22 millimeters, baby.
Let's go.
I can't wait.
To be clear, it is not going to be called the Airbender Thick, although I kind of like that.
Just a colloquial title.
So if you are a reset queen or king, and you want to put just zero effort whatsoever into your play, just really minimal flow and effort, then I really recommend the 22. The 22 for you.
Up, baby. Yeah, we got to test the 22 when we were in Pittsburgh, and I loved it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so thick. But
I literally hit 2 balls, and I was like, this is your dream paddle.
Yeah. I found out that the Lux, the Selkirk Lux that a lot of people love, is also 20. So
yeah.
I guess there are thicker paddles than I realized out there.
I believe those releases are closer to November, still on track for that. But until then, you guys, you can always try the 16 Airbender or the 10, 13, or 16 Obsidian RCFs, and really risk-free. All you have to do is pay for shipping back. So you have 30 days to try the paddle, to unwrap it, use it, and return it. Just pay for the cost of shipping back if you don't love it. So if you don't want to wait, you can go try now.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Use code JillyB. That is 25% off, and I think I only have a couple more weeks on that 25% off code. It's JillyB25, and you can get yourself some chuck balls too.
You know, anyone playing at high altitude, that would be such a good paddle for, because the biggest thing at high altitude is keeping the ball in the court.
Yeah.
And really having that ability to
total control.
Feel the ball, hit the ball at your target. So if you live at high altitude, think about it. Airbenders.
So on the topic of products we love, we did one of my all-time favorite videos this week. No, not the one that has gone viral of Kristin with an iPhone attached to the top of her head while we were at French Alpine Bistro here in Aspen. What was your iPhone playing?
It was playing MLP Midseason tournament.
And what did the caption on the video say? It said, how to get your partner's attention this summer.
Yes.
So
I thought you meant inside the video of the video.
No, so she's sitting there at this super fancy restaurant, literally with a claw on her head, a phone on top of it, and it's playing pickleball with how to get your partner's attention. So we filmed that, which has been awesome. We always do a good video in Aspen. We always do a good video.
Yeah, in fact, standing right here on this patio, we did the
bird call. If you know, you know, you guys. But no, we filmed a different video, which was I spent $1,000 on pickleball shoes. The most popular pickleball shoes, was it 7 or 8 of them?
It was 7, but then you did 2 different Mizunos for
so
the
8.
5s and the 6s.
Okay. So we weighed
it ended up being
8 different shoes. We have this really great kind of paddle scale at home I use to measure all my paddles, because I really wanted to know what was the lightest weight shoe in pickleball. So if you're interested, you can go to YouTube, my YouTube, and find the whole graph on.
Find out.
No, the chart on, you know, here's 1 through 8, heaviest to lightest of the most popular pickleball shoes on the market.
Yeah. One of the Bay Area Breakers last week was playing the heaviest shoe in pickleball.
The Nike?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Was he or she moving fast or slow?
I'll let you decide.
I got to go back and find that now.
Yeah. Do you want to get into Chubby's experience in Grand Rapids.
This is really bad.
I cannot move to Grand Rapids.
So KW used to have a little bit more love on her in college.
On my handles.
When she went to Texas, so she got a nickname of K Chubby. I hope I didn't give you that.
I only got that nickname after I was no longer chubby. And yes, it was you, but lovingly. I mean, I would never deny a good rhyme, especially if it's true.
I'm sorry. We'll put in some photos of her from when she was
I am
fresh out of college.
Proud of my fat photos. My favorite is when I show them to people and they go, which one is you?
It's true. I do want to put this one up. If you guys are not watching on YouTube or anywhere that you can see this, you're missing out. We're going to put that photo up.
I also have black hair in the photo you're talking about, right?
Yes, and an orange dress.
Yeah. I think it was black and white polka dot, but I could be wrong. The orange dress, that was from the bridesmaid.
You have red hair in that one.
Bridesmaid dress.
Red hair and an orange dress and 45 extra pounds.
So yeah, things I ate in Michigan. Number 1, chicken and waffles with syrup for dinner. Starbucks breakfast sandwiches for breakfast.
2 of them.
Did that twice. Frozen custard in the airport. Cheeseburger with a double patty. That was awesome at Little Bird. Pizza, hash balls, which
what is a hash ball?
Was at an international restaurant. And what my favorite part of the international menu for the hash balls, it says America. I guess hash balls are American if you're in Michigan. Non-tacos, those were really good. Well, everything was really good, obviously.
I'm sorry, did you say non-tacos, like Indian tacos? Like non?
Yeah, like non-bread, like N-A-A-N.
Okay.
N-A-A-N.
Okay.
And not to mention the box of See's candy that I brought, 2 bags of dried mangoes, and, of course, a bucket of beer. So that was my 3 days in Grand Rapids.
For those of you that don't know, I cook all my meals. Every hour, I cook all of our meals. It's pretty rare that we eat out. I love cooking. I love seeing what goes in my food. I believe that you should have as few people touching your food as possible because there's an energy transference. So when I'm away, that mice will play.
Yeah, that energy transfers.
Kristin goes either no food or all the wrong food.
There's reasons certain people should be in power, and I should not be. I need a conservatorship for my food intake.
We're taking volunteers.
Yes. So big props. Big props to our new favorite player, Eric.
Always on.
Onsens. He continues to blossom. The only match that Miami ended up losing was their first, and it was an accidental shank lob in a dream breaker that went over Bobby Oshiro's head and landed 1 inch inside the baseline. And that was the end of that dream breaker.
So that was match point, Bobby Oshiro versus Lina Patagamaiti. And like you just said, Lina shanks a shot over Bobby's head, lands 1 inch in, and that was match point. Bobby could have closed it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Run them all down, baby.
I know these dream breakers feel so chance oriented, so
right. And so then you look at it, and then Miami won every other match.
I mean, you could also say, well, they never should have won the match against Todd Fote's team. And
I thought you were going to say Bay Area Breakers. Come on.
That's funny.
But yeah, Todd Fote's team.
Yeah, because Todd Fote was up 4 points it was 2016, and he had the ball on serve. And here comes Eric Onsens, who apparently did the exact same thing to him to Todd in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Eric wins all 4 points.
Yeah. Speaking of clutch players, I think Rachel Rohrbacher might be
one
of the most clutch players in history. So
amazing performance by Rachel.
Obviously, Anna Bright has been proven right in that selection, but she definitely has that dog in her, as Anna likes to say. Another big props to Vivian, who got back into Premier and definitely held her own. They made it all the way to the finals.
Sorry, and in the notes it says Vivian, quote, played like a G, end quote, Glozman. I think that needs to be said.
Yeah, I forgot I wrote that.
And to our good friend Caitlin Christian.
Yeah. Took down Ale and Will Howells in mixed. They forced a dream breaker, which they ended up losing. But still, Annalie's team is designed for dream breakers, basically.
Chris and I continue to eat bleep on our previous prediction that the fives with Annalie's team, Will Howes and Zane Navratil and Mari Humberg, would not win a single match.
Well, you know what Zane's middle name is now?
Dreambreaker?
No, 5 Pete.
5 Pete. Yes.
Zane has now won 5 MLPs.
No, huge
Correct me if
kudos
I'm
to
wrong.
Zane.
Yeah.
I have something I want to say about Zane on the pod, but I've debated saying it. Should I say it?
Does it have to do with the memes of pickleball body bag?
A little
The
bit.
double body bag?
A little bit. But it's also like a compliment.
Of course.
Should I say it?
Zane loves a backhanded compliment.
Okay. He knows I love him, so.
Yeah.
Zane's not the tallest player. He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest.
These are facts.
He doesn't have the best footwork. If anything, I watch him at the kitchen sometimes. I'm like, whoa, he's like moving so much and like back and up. And now he's like at the baseline.
Well, I wouldn't say he has bad footwork. He has interesting footwork.
He has interesting
he has
footwork.
Lots of
okay.
footwork.
He doesn't hit the ball the hardest. But I think that motherfucker is one of the smartest people in pickleball. I love Zane. I love watching him play MLP. He did this thing in doubles with Mari Humberg where, first off, he was playing the right, which I love that he's willing to be unorthodox. And Mari's obviously more comfortable on the left. But I love watching Zane in MLP.
No,
and just
absolutely.
a singles dream breaker king.
Totally. No, it's proven point. Yeah. Anything more on Zane?
OG 5 Pete. Let's go.
Yeah. Just got to give quick props to my Uber driver to the airport. This guy comes to pick me up it's actually a Lyft, and he's driving one of those like pickup truck Jeeps with an open cab. And if you know me, you know I really don't like windows open. I don't like ceiling fans.
She has
I don't
not like air on
boats.
her
I don't
face.
Like breezes.
Yeah.
Did I say I don't like convertibles? And so I'm like, okay, great. This is hilarious.
I can do this.
But he was so sweet and he was so excited. And I do believe he had earlier given a ride to Megan Dizon because apparently it wasn't Megan Fudge, but it was a Megan. And yeah, I've never seen a Lyft driver in such a unique vehicle.
That was actually something a lot of the team owners said, like, everyone was excited to see the players and host MLP, and Uber drivers were excited, and just like BCO killed it.
Nicey.
And huge kudos to Andrea Coop, who has run that tournament. It was her brainchild, and apparently this MLP was very successful.
And lots of amateurs had a great time too. There was the amateur tournament going on simultaneously. Some of my friends on the other courts got to see, and even coached a couple to a win while we were in between games. There was one other big props I did want to give to a new player that I had zero awareness of.
You had no idea.
I had no idea about Noe Cliff. And he plays with a lot of calmness and class and solid decision making, which is, I think, another thing that's hard for new kind of banger tennis players to
Miami's a very classy team.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look forward to playing them again.
Yeah. No, I do too.
Big flops. Can we talk about the worst line goal in history? Or as I like to call it, Rattlesnake versus Hook.
The Hook got the Rattlesnake. Yeah, I mean, do you want to start or do you want me
like
to?
rock,
I mean, I've
paper,
obviously
scissors.
thought a lot of...
Hook video replay Rattlesnake.
Okay.
So yeah, like we mentioned,
let's
there was
play it
no
right now.
actual video replay, but we now have the hindsight of 2020. So take
let's
a
do
look.
this. Let's do this. To be fair, we're going to play it. And I'm kind of going to announce a little bit through it for those of you who are not watching on video. Okay, so Yates does a great speed up, hits a ball that lands about a foot in. Michelle calls it out. You can see Rafa puts his hand down to say he thinks it's in. They look at the referee. The referee says out. Richie Twazin, team owner, puts his finger up to indicate the ball was out. Tammy and Yates can't believe this. They had already started to walk back thinking they won the point. The announcers look at a quick replay, and even though it's not a true challenge system, you're just looking at the video feed, you can tell this thing is a foot in.
I mean, at minimum 3 inches, but it could be as much as a foot. In fairness, I was watching from above live, And it did have the trajectory of a ball that looked like it might be going out. Like you're playing, you're facing the net, ball whizzes behind your head. You think, yeah, it's going out. Yay. And sometimes you're wrong. And in this case, Michelle Esquivel was very wrong.
So it doesn't surprise me that the player made a bad call. It doesn't surprise me that the referee didn't see the ball clear enough to overturn it. Two things surprise me. One, we all have YouTube on our phones. Why didn't the ownership group, the general manager, the coaches, the other team owners, teammates who were sitting on the bench, why didn't they just grab their phone kind of quickly? Like if I had Tammy Emmerich, Yates, Travis Rettenmeyer come up to me. Yeah, I know that. And so if I had Tammy, who I know and respect, same thing with Travis, if I had them come up to me and I'm sitting on the bench and say, look, I'm telling you, Jill, that ball was in, I would consider maybe using a timeout or asking them to use a timeout, or I would just grab my phone. It takes 30 seconds to pull up the YouTube stream.
I will give the counter argument to that.
Wait, one second. So that was the one thing that kind of resonated to me was that seemed weird, that the bench wouldn't overturn it. So the only reason the bench wouldn't overturn it is if they didn't see it.
Right, which I do think they had extra line judges because they didn't have the replay system. And you can see on the stream the line judge clearly not looking in the direction of the ball, which is what she said. She was like, I didn't see it. I was looking at the net. Ball went too fast. And that's that. Like, if you don't see it, you don't see it. But, there are 17 other nearby bystanders that have an opinion. The trouble is
that was the other thing that
the bench is biased, right? Each bench is biased in the favor of their own team. Right? Now, we'd like to think most people in this sport, and I do believe this is true, are altruistic. I don't think anyone's out to purposefully cheat. I think sometimes they've proven, obviously, that eyewitnesses are the worst. Human beings see all sorts of things. You can mess with the shadows and see things weird. But, you're in the heat of the moment, and you don't know if you're going to need that timeout later. You don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the game. I think in the zoom out of that particular
but if like Tammy and Travis came up to me and said, like, I'm freaking telling you, Jill, that ball was a foot in.
Right. That's personality to personality.
I would turn and look at everyone who had a good look on that ball. And I just say, hey, did you guys see that in or out? And you could see Rafa put his hand down to say it was in. So you had one of the teammates saying that ball was in. Right. And so as a coach, as a GM, as anyone that's sitting on the bench, you've got one player saying that ball is in. Just because the referee said, I don't know, or I thought it was out, like, you got to collect information from around you. I think that's what we do in pickleball. That's what I've seen as the norm.
Totally. I think this will be a cautionary tale. I think this was made such a spectacle on social and after and at the event that no one wants to be the next victim of this. And, maybe this will never, ever happen again where there's no video replay challenge. That could very well be. But I think you don't know until you're in that situation, and then your hand is forced and you're like, well, we either have to make our own video replay system, like you said, or we have to live with our potentially bad call and let the pickleball gods decide. But definitely, I think the lesson really learned here is if you don't really see it, don't call it out.
Well, yeah, in tennis you couldn't.
You couldn't not whipped around.
Well, in tennis you couldn't do that, and I don't think you should be able to do that. And I've talked about this before in pickleball. Like, you have to make the call. You can't look at the referee and plead for try and dig for information. Did you see that ball? 90% of the time, the ref's gonna say I didn't see it. So then they give you the information that they don't know. So then you say out. That's not the order in which the line calls should transpire.
No. It should be you make the best
call you can.
And the opponent gets to ask the ref if they saw something else.
Exactly.
And luckily enough,
but the other weird thing was the other weird thing about it all was as a partner, if you're making a call that you're unsure of, the first person you usually look to isn't the referee.
It's your bench.
It's your bench or your partner, and you can see Rafa put his hand down to indicate the ball was in.
Yeah. So that was Hook versus Rattlesnake. Round 1 went to Hook. But yeah, Travis continued yelling for literally like the next 17 minutes every time the point ended. You're a cheater, cheater.
I love Travis.
So yeah. If you're interested, go check out Travis's social. You can hear his full breakdown of his own opinion of the matter. In our matches, the Bay Area Breakers had two like kind of back-to-back close calls that I'll play here. And one, we got overturned, and the other, they didn't overturn in our favor. And I swear to you, they look exactly as on the line as each other.
Interesting. Play
so
it.
It does make me wonder, like, when you have these people watching the replay systems, how they're looking at the same thing, and you can clearly see the ball down and then up, and it goes down and back up.
So was that one called in or out?
That one was not overturned. They called it out.
They called it out, and it wasn't overturned.
I think Eric's feet right here. It was against Miami. And
so
again, I am fine with people making wrong calls. You're doing the best you can in the heat of the moment. It's happening in split seconds, but
So the
we need to
referees
strive for
shouldn't be
better.
allowed to say call stands. They have to get rid of this vernacular. They can't keep saying
They
that.
have to call it fresh.
They have to deem the
what
ball
do you see?
in or out with no preferential treatment or preference given to
Whether it was called in or out on the court.
how it was called.
That call is now null and void.
Correct.
And you're just looking at it with fresh eyes.
Correct.
Is that ball in? Is that ball out?
100%.
I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be the
Call
case.
stands.
Yeah. And so it lets fear, our operative word, run the kind of decision where they're like afraid to overturn. It's not about the overturn. It's about, was it in or was it out? So anything more on that?
No.
Also notable, in case you missed it, one of the games this weekend went 40-38.
And it was 45 minutes long.
Yeah. Which begs the question, was it a death battle or a pillow fight?
Let me tell you why rally scoring is better. You can actually quantify the exact amount of time you need for a rally scored match. Just kidding.
Whoopsie. Yeah, so this was Orlando Squeeze versus Hustlers, Tyson and Paris versus CJ Klinger and Jackie Kawamoto. So check it out. It was on the challenge, or the grandstand court, if you're looking for it. I might put the link in the description if I can find it. But yeah, wanted to give also a quick props and flops to the uniforms this week.
Yes.
It's a constantly evolving thing. These uniforms, they change all the time. But I really love the Miami Penguin uniforms. No, they were not dressed like Penguin. They were made by
Penguin. Oh, I get it. Cute, cute, cute.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, obviously pink is a fun color, pink and white, but the cut of the women's is that like high neck halter with like the kind of cut in. So they were looking fresh, and Orlando really crushes the like extras. I'm excited to see more of the Breakers outfits. You can check them out on the Bay Area Breakers website. They've got some fun stuff too, but yeah, the flops is, for me, the DC uniforms. DC and Cal. That color is so weird to me, that like neon orange. I don't know what their color scheme is supposed to be. I was trying to find out. I think Richie was going for like a golden bear thing, but then they somehow ended at orange. And the DC team is like rolled in mustard. Looks like they have stains on their shirt. So,
well, those uniforms served them plenty well.
They made it all the way to the finals in those mustard uniforms. But yeah, so AL finally broke through. Got the only thing she hadn't achieved.
I have
in
one
pickleball.
question. Have they won a match not in a Dream Breaker yet?
That is a great question.
Because we weren't far off
Yeah, and in this new
having doubts
points
about their
format,
doubles.
in the new points format, it matters if you can win 3-1 or 3-0 versus going to a Dream Breaker. None of the points count from this midseason event. It's just, that's the sound of
Sorry.
Jill the Wasp Killer. defending herself, defending her territory. But none of the points counted this week, which was why Bay Area ended up with 3 subs with their new players. But super excited for MLP Salt Lake City coming up. We're headed there on Thursday.
Yes,
start playing
that's
Saturday.
next up.
Personally, some of the other teams start sooner. And we get to face off against
California
Cal.
Black Bears,
Also playing
Miami,
Vegas.
and Vegas?
Yeah. So I think some of the best teams, for sure. You don't get to play Brooklyn yet. So that should be something to look forward to as well. But anything more on MLP?
No, I love that. I
Oh.
said I didn't want to create a podcast that was too focused on the pros, and you spent 6 minutes talking about uniforms. You know, we lost like 90% of people.
You think? Tell us. Let us know. Do you want more or less pointless KW opinions? Because I think that there's a limitless demand for the pointless KW
Limitless
opinions.
demand.
Including this opinion. What do Rachel Rohrabacher and Eric Onsens have in common?
I don't know.
Besides that, they're both clutch. They're both players who seemingly burst onto the scene suddenly with instant success, but were closet pickleball players, secretly playing in the darkness and the shadows For years. Rachel played tournaments like 5 years before she got picked on Anna Bright's team last year, and Eric Onsens' father is the #1 senior pro and has been playing pickleball whenever he has a chance outside of tennis, which he had been playing for his college. So, you know, it helps. I think it made a big difference in that, like, being around the game and the strategy for years. I think that's the thing that tennis players have the hardest time catching up to quickly.
Well, Kristin, we have a really exciting segment, special guest. Geoff Nguyen, the owner, one of the owners of the Bay Area Breakers, our MLP team, is joining us today to talk about how the heck did he end up owning an MLP team.
It's a good story.
Yeah, what's the best part about owning one? The worst? The trials, the tribulations, draft strategy. So you guys are not going to want to miss it.
And just for your viewership awareness, the recording failed, aka KW failed, but I will put for our visual viewers some fun game footage over the past few weeks, so you have something to look at while you're listening to our lovely voices.
Yes, to be clear, the video footage failed, but we do have the audio.
Yes.
So stay tuned. It's going on right now.
Should we talk about ketone first?
Absolutely. Looking for clarity? Ketone IQ can help you feel sharper, more focused, and ready to take on any task. Visit ketone.com/JillyB for 30% off your first subscription order and unlock the benefits of drinkable ketones, allowing you to return to an ancient source of energy on demand.
According to PubMed, 87% of people see an improvement in brain network stability after drinking Ketone IQ.
Proven to support endurance and recovery, ketone supplements are trusted by the world's top performers, from Navy SEALs and Tour de France cyclists to pro athletes across major sports.
Ketone IQ ships free inside the U.S. and it's backed by a 60-day money-back guarantee. So ride the ketone wave risk-free at ketone.com/JillyB for 30% off your first order.
And they just came out with a ketone plus caffeine product. Super exciting.
Super exciting. So ketone up. All right, pod listeners, our next guest is one of the earliest owners of an MLP team. He joined in the 2022 season, originally with the team named the Jackrabbits, now the Bay Area Breakers. Geoff Nguyen is one of the most involved owners. Geoff Nguyen, welcome to the pod. And thank you so much for inviting us into your home and the courts at Piccadilly. It's like pickleball paradise here.
Yeah, the court's at Piccadilly. But I'm excited to be on this podcast, so thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks for being
you were
here.
mentioning earlier it was like a three-year process to get this into the shape it's in now. But,
Yeah.
4 courts.
It did take a while to build the house. We built the courts first, so we had our priorities straight. We had a place to play for a while, and then 2 years later, we built the house, and then I was finally able to move in.
Any advice for future compound owners?
Maybe don't build so many courts because you're going to have a ton of people at your house all the time.
Yes. I've had real estate friends in Palm Springs say kind of the same thing. Like, I'm afraid to build courts because then I know I'm just going to be an influx of all my pickleball friends.
That is so funny. So Geoff, how the heck did you end up owning a pickleball team, a pro pickleball team, which I'm sure people had to have told you were crazy at the time of buying into this?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot, actually. So getting into pickleball, first of all, that kind of started during COVID, right? I think a lot of people during that time, just being kind of locked away in our homes, kind of gravitated towards the sport of pickleball. So here in LA, the parks were actually all closed at one point in time. So we didn't really have a place to play pickleball, but what I decided to do so that I wouldn't lose my mind is I rented a place out in Tarzana nearby, and it had a tennis court. So my friend, Mark Gergis, and I decided to just go out there every weekend. We rented it, and we taped the tennis court with some pickleball lines. And he and I just, went out there every weekend and we played pickleball. We tried to get better at it. And eventually, some people started to hear about the courts. So Jesse Irvin and Scott Crandall, who Mark had worked with previously in coaching.
Okay.
Or Scott was coaching Mark for a little bit. And so they asked if they can come out there also. So we set up 2 courts on the tennis court, and Scott and Jesse, and they invited a couple of their friends, Jeff Warnick and Gabe, out there also, and we're just out there playing every single weekend. And I fell in love with the sport and just kind of enjoyed being able to hang out with everybody.
I've actually never seen you play. Can you play pickleball?
You haven't seen me play? We played before.
Oh, it must have been quick.
Yeah. No, I did.
All owners look the same.
I came out to Palm Springs.
Yes.
With Mary
okay, I
Basha
remember now.
and Kyron.
Okay,
so,
I remember
we did
now.
play once.
No,
So
you actually got game. You got game.
It was quick. Kyron
I wasn't
and
there
I
for
tried to take you and Mary on, and that did not go very well. But it was a lot of fun. But anyways, going back to the story, so we I just enjoyed it so much that I decided I wanted to have my own place so that I can continue doing this every weekend. So I found a place out here in Arcadia with some land, and we built the courts first, and the house came second.
Wow. So this was literally vacant land.
Yes, it was.
Zoned residential?
Yeah, well, the house was here. There's a house
Okay.
built, I think, in 1912.
So cool.
It was a really old house.
Oh, yeah.
That we had to kind of tear down and rebuild a new one.
I was
But,
going to say, this does not look like a 1912 rebuild.
yeah.
If
But-
you're not watching on YouTube, we're going to put in some photos of Geoff's gorgeous house and the amazing 4 courts and the infinity pool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Nice.
like the built-in seats in the pool, too. That's always a good touch.
Yeah.
So how did you end up owning an MLP
Yeah,
team?
so going back to that story, so just falling in love with the sport, right? So I wanted to get into it, and I think MLP had started the year before I got into it with just a few teams. I want to say
Right,
8 teams. Yeah, and Richie Toison was one of the team owners at that time, and my friend Mark again introduced me to Richie at one point, and he was telling me about how the league was expanding, and they were looking for new owners. So I told him that I was interested in joining and starting a team. But at that time, the league wasn't really, allowing just anybody to come in and buy a team. They really wanted people that had some influence to kind of help spread the sport of pickleball.
So were you like, why are you calling me?
I'm pretty sure that's what they were
I'm busting
thinking,
my
'cause
owner's
I
chops
kinda,
on this pod. I'm getting cut before my
Right?
first event.
So, everything kind of just went through Richie because he was connected with MLP. And so I reached out to one of my friends who had somewhat of a relationship with Jeremy Lin. And she introduced me to Jeremy's sister-in-law. And
For those who don't know, tell us who Jeremy Lin is.
Oh, Jeremy Lin, very popular Asian-American basketball player. He has a documentary out called 38 at the Garden. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a great story
I love
about,
documentaries. I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's a great story about Asian Americans in sports and how Jeremy Lin was, kind of a trailblazer in that area. But anyway, so I reached out to his sister-in-law, Patricia, We had a conversation. I learned that Jeremy Lin actually loves pickleball. He plays pickleball. His brother plays pickleball. So they're big fans of pickleball. And I asked him if he would, be a part of it with me. And so he said he was interested, and we came back to the league, and they still wouldn't allow us to buy into a team.
You didn't take no for an answer.
So eventually, Richie, he also owns the Black Bears, but he owned the Jackrabbits also, a part of the Jackrabbits with Mimi Mercado. So he spoke to Mimi and convinced her to agree to sell a percentage of the team to myself and to Jeremy Lin. So that's how I got to become an owner.
I didn't realize that you weren't part of the Jackrabbits until the rebranding.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Right before that?
Correct. So
it was Mimi and Richie, and then
I came in, and that was part of the reason why we decided to go forward with the rebranding. We brought in Jeremy Lin, and we felt that just his presence in the Bay Area would allow us to capitalize on another market. So we decided to rebrand at that time to the Bay Area Breakers.
Super smart. I don't know if you knew this or not, but my dream has always been to play on Bay Area. Mimi gave me some swag over a year ago, and I've kept it. I have vintage, vintage Bay Area Breakers swag. So it's so cool to see it coming to fruition and all the progress that you guys have made in the past 2 years. It's been amazing.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. So speaking about the draft then, what are the 3 most important things you look for when drafting, whether in a player or team chemistry? And does it change whether it's a first or second pick, male or female? Walk us through your strategy without, of course, giving away the farm to our competitors who may be listening.
If you're a team owner, don't listen.
Don't listen to this, team owners. Just stop.
Right. So strategy wise, it depends, right? It depends on whether we're picking early or we're picking late, if we're picking for Premier or Challenger. But we've been a little bit unlucky when it comes to our draft position, I would say.
Yeah,
we've always been either last or second to last, right?
Even with that Challenger season.
Even with the Challenger season. So we were lucky enough to have made a trade in the first season up to the 5th pick. So it kind of depends. We will work at trades.
And for those that don't know, you are one of, if not the most winningest team in Challenger. The Bay Area Breakers dominated all of last year.
Correct.
How many?
We won 2 of the championships last year.
Wow. Out of 3.
Out of the 3.
Prevented that 3rd win?
So the 3rd.
Was that me? Oh, I forgot. Yes.
Was it?
Technically, you didn't play each other.
No, we didn't play each other.
But we won it that year. I won it with Dallas.
But then you came back the next day and took that Challenger Super Final.
No, the Challenger Super Final was actually taken by the Chicago
Oh, yeah,
Slice.
yeah,
We did
You
play them,
played
and
it,
we
but-
played it,
Chicago,
and then
okay, it's all
Chicago
coming
won
back.
that.
I hope that really cleared things up for the listeners at home. Sorry about that. But
That might have
Geoff
been
is a
confusing.
very winning team owner, is my point.
Yeah, so we have to give a lot of credit to the ownership group and to Scott Crandall, our coach, also, because we strategize as far as the draft pick. I'll come up with my plan. Scott will come up with his, and we'll collaborate.
Do they ever match?
I think so. A lot of times they do align, but
Or is that kind of what happens? You have your list of players you're looking into, and you just combine with his and throw out the ones that you don't agree on?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that kind of gives us a list of players that we're interested in. But then as far as the strategy, it depends on where we're picking, right? So if we're picking kind of later in the draft, then the girls are kind of taken really quickly. So if you're picking late, you kind of want to go with the girl back to back, so that you have 2 strong girls, because I think the pool of guys is just so much larger.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little bit of intel on draft strategy. But for us, when it comes to the athletes that we're picking, there are a few things that we look at, one of which is versatility. So we do like players that are more versatile. You can play the left side, you can play the right side, just so that you have more options during the match if you need to change things up. And one of the other things we look at is their athletic ability, their athleticism. So for example, this year in our team, we picked Colin Schick pretty early. We were just very impressed with his athletic ability, how he moves around the court and how quickly he can get to the balls.
And you have the secret weapon in having Scott Crandall, which, there are other teams with coaches, but definitely not all of them, and definitely not all of them as seasoned and intelligent as Scott. So you've got to have probably some factor of Scott can mold this athlete into a pickleball specimen versus
Well, there's
someone who's
there's
more...
Jill and Jill's skill, and then Jill's skill plus Scott Crandall
Right.
coaching, and those
Right.
two have very little to do with each other, because with Scott, it's such an improvement.
That is very true. So Scott is a huge asset for us. So, early on in the year, we obviously wanted to extend his contract as quickly as we could. So luckily we were able to do that. We came to an agreement and extended his contract for the 2024 season.
Nice.
And he's just a huge asset because it's not just him helping me with evaluating players, putting the team together and keeping them together. It's also about the X's and the O's, right?
Yeah.
The in-game strategy.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best at it. He analyzes every player that's out there, our opponent. He kind of understands, if the player has any weaknesses or what their strengths are. And so there are so many times I can't even count where we would go into a match where we're behind at the changeover, but with the adjustments that he makes during the matches will allow us to come back and win those matches. And it's happened multiple times.
That's a really cool stat, actually. I wish we could calculate across all the
I
teams,
know,
like the best
definitely.
comeback team or the best, strategizing team.
Totally. I mean, obviously, in the different rules changes we've seen with MLP in scoring, they've designed a lot of elements that have at times more favored the trailing team, and then sort of adjusted that as it goes. But still, there's nothing like that tenacity to stay in the game when you're maybe down 12-16, and
Right.
it's just a matter of getting that ball back and running a few points up, and all of a sudden it's a 2-point game.
So you talk about athleticism. What else? How important is singles?
Singles is actually a big part of our draft strategy. I don't necessarily think that a lot of people would agree with me on that, but I think singles is a pretty big factor because so many matches actually go to a dream breaker. So,
And how much do you think being a good singles player makes you a good dream breakers singles player?
That's a great question.
We've seen it translate. I think, last year when we had Christian Alshon, I think, just knowing how great of a singles player he was kind of one of the reasons why we drafted him.
I would wonder if Ava's stats were actually better than his, though, going back to that Challenger season.
Yeah, so Eva Radzikowska, that's the reason we drafted her, was because of her ability in singles. And she ended up being a phenomenal dream breaker player.
I still have nightmares about playing her in a dream breaker and singles.
She's
Just
one of the
looking over
best.
at my bench and going, I don't know what to do. She's painting
She
every
just hit
single
4
line. I don't
lines.
know what to do.
Yeah. I had seen her play in Atlanta against, I think it was Mary Brasha, and was just so impressed with her singles game. I think
good.
at that time,
She's so
I don't
good.
even think anybody knew who she was when she entered into the draft, but we picked her second round because of her abilities in singles.
As a player, she does not get the credit she deserves. I think she's one of the most winning, if not the most winning
She is.
player in Major League Pickleball
Yeah,
history.
and then if you combine that with the humility factor,
Yep. And the
based on
attitude.
skill, it's like off the charts.
Yeah. She was an absolute pleasure to have on our team.
Yeah, we helped one of the teams lend itself that choice. We are huge fans, but really interesting to look at the different ways of constructing a team. How do you feel like you have maybe made mistakes in the past with draft strategy? If you're comfortable,
That's a great question,
talking about
Kristen.
that. Any regrets?
I wouldn't say we have any regrets. I think, it's a learning process. Also, it's MLP is a fairly new organization. So just kind of drafting and learning from it is a good thing for our organization, the Breakers. But one of the things that we didn't take into consideration during the draft was just personalities of the players.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will clash with other personalities.
Yep.
And that could kind of create a little bit of tension within the team, but that's kind of something that we'll pay attention to moving forward.
Well, it's really hard to anticipate that too. All you can do is essentially ask other GMs or other owners who've had those players on the team.
Right.
Like, how are they on a team? Like, I've led corporate teams my entire career. Like, I know how to be on a team. A lot of individual athletes who've only played an individual sport their whole life, you put them on a team. It's an awkward thing. I mean, you have to remove your ego. There can't be ego on a team.
Right. Yeah, I think As far as individuals, every single player that we've ever had on the Bay Area Breakers have been phenomenal individuals, all great players. It's just, I think, sometimes personalities just don't go well together for whatever reason.
Okay, outside of Ava, who has the most dynamic and collaborative personality you've ever had?
Oh, you know what? It's Pablo.
Oh yeah.
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 Pablo Tejas he's the original breaker. He was the first player that the Breakers ever drafted.
Wow.
And
the OGB.
The lefty, we traded up to pick Pablo because of a combination of both his singles, and we felt his doubles was developing so much at the time. I don't remember. I think we were one of towards the bottom, maybe 10th or 12th pick, and we traded up to the 5th pick so that we can get Pablo. But Pablo, he was always a leader on the team. He helped with communicating with the team. And to this day, I would call Pablo a good friend to myself and the Breakers. He stays in touch with us, and we'll always think of him as a breaker.
Yeah, it's super interesting because it's easy to assume, the best player on your team should be your captain, or the best of the gender should be your captain. And I find that's not always the case. If anything, that can backfire. And it's rare to have someone with actually, I think, that incredible skill like a Pablo who can also be a great communicator, a great leader, a great captain. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Pablo was a great asset to us that season.
So we talked a little bit about how things went down in the last waiver wire period on our pod. Did we get it all right?
I think so.
You guys will have to go back and listen if you haven't already to the last pod. But.
Yeah, I think you kind of portrayed exactly, the craziness behind the scene as far as the waiver wire process. And it was quite the roller coaster for us. So the waiver wire process, I think, the most shocking thing that came from it initially was the fact that we traded our top player, Vivian Glozman, to DC for some cash consideration and Elise Jones. And, there was a lot of speculation as to why we did that and what was happening. But I don't think that everyone realized that, going into the season as a challenger team, you kind of have to look at the team and look at where you or how you want the team to look going into Premier, hopefully next season. And just kind of knowing what players you have to kind of put yourself in a position where your balance sheet is strong enough to where you can compete in Premier next year. And so when we drafted Vivian, we actually traded up to pick Vivian, knowing that she was available still for Challenger. So we, got up as high as we could to the 3rd pick, so that we could pick Vivian, kind of knowing that she would be that tradable asset for the future and for the future of our organization. But so there's a lot of speculation as to why we traded her, but none of that is true.
It sounds like it was always the intention.
No, I mean, it sounds very altruistic to me. And it's something I had wondered going into this season of, the hypothetical idea that your best player could be that trading chip to Premier. And do you want to see them, get to the big stage, so to speak, and have that opportunity,
right?
Versus like, we're getting rid of them. No, we're so altruistic. We're giving them their moment to shine. Right.
So it's a great opportunity for Vivian, but at the same time, so I'll tell you a little bit inside, give you a little bit of the inside story as to Vivian and what we were doing. But even after the first event in Atlanta, we actually shopped Vivian to a few teams at that time. Because I think it's always, the GMs were always talking. I think it's a good idea for you to kind of get a sense of the value of your players and
you
what they're worth in the market.
DC, right? So you already
Correct.
knew you had that next event off, so it wasn't going to affect your lineup.
It wasn't, yeah. So, but we kind of knew that some teams, looking at their roster, would probably improve by having her. So we did shop, but obviously, nothing came of it. But after the DC event, after there have been more results and the teams have gotten more, acclimated with their players and just kind of understanding and have a better feel of their team, I went out again and I did a little bit of shopping her again. And eventually I did get on a call with Al Tylis, who happened to be on vacation in Africa at the time, in South Africa. I'm sure he was having a blast out there. But we got on a phone call and hammered out a deal that I felt was fair for both the players, Vivian, Elise, and for both organizations, and we executed that trade probably within 30 minutes.
That's great. And honestly, a lot of team owners seemingly don't make a lot of changes throughout the season rather. And I think it's a great part of what makes MLP exciting is following these trades and following the saga of who's going where and who picked up who and which two great players aren't working together, so they need to make a shift.
And just to remind everyone listening, what's up for grabs and what's at stake here. So this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Geoff, we'll see four challenger teams go up to Premier.
That is correct.
And does that mean 4 Premier teams come down to Challenger who don't perform?
No, so the idea is promotion only. So we should be having 4 Challenger teams promoted every year. So there isn't going to be a relegation process. We're not going to be bringing any of the teams down. So
and what does that mean for you as a team owner to earn your way into Premier for next year?
So I think, obviously Premier is just for the organization, it would just be better for marketing purposes.
Okay.
And so we all do want to be in Premier. The league will promote Premier. They put all the Premier matches on championship court, so you just get more
exposure.
Yeah, and
more
even like
television
we were
time.
Talking earlier today, the Beer City event will have some time on both Tennis Channel and ESPN2, but I think only Premier is on ESPN2. So all of those things do add up when you're trying.
So that's higher sponsor dollars.
Yeah, more sponsor dollars, more visibility. So it's better for the team. So
and then is there any cost, or will there be any cost to you as a team owner for that Premier spot?
So there was a cost to get into Premier this year, right? So there's an auction that happened early on. I think the cost ended up being $400,000.
$400,000.
Yeah. And so those 12 teams that are in Premier now had to pay the $400,000 to be there. So the rest of us in Challenger, we opted not to do that.
And to kind of fight your way in.
Yeah, so we're going to earn our way in
Love that.
via winning. And we felt that we could do that. I mean, I think we've done a good job drafting in Challenger in the past, and we do a good job with scouting the players. So we felt that we were in good position to do that. And strategically, I think, we put ourselves in a position to be successful.
A lot of people commented, and there was a fantastic meme of this on Memes of Pickleball. We say this all the time, but if you're not following Memes of Pickleball, what are you even doing?
You're not a diehard.
And it was like, barrier breakers, third in the standings, blows up the entire team.
Yeah.
So walk our listeners through.
Right. So
it's not really what it seems.
It's not what it seems. So the barrier breakers were second in the standings after
second.
DC.
Well, it depends on whether you count points per match or total points.
Yeah. So we're looking at it from a points per match perspective, just so that it's kind of more fair amongst all the teams, because some teams have played more matches than others. So if
you're not first, you're last, right? So you're like, hey, we're second. 3 out of 4 of you get off this team.
Yeah. So we were second at the time. We'll say second.
Okay.
And so, in DC, there were some rumblings that I had heard that there were, some of the top women were going to be coming back to MLP that opted out in the initial draft. So, Yana Newell, yourself,
Megan, Bobby, Susanna.
And at that time, you look at the waiver wire slots and who was picking when and where. You look at the 5 teams that were at the bottom, they had the opportunity to just kind of jump in and all of a sudden become a much better team by swapping out.
Yeah, as I said, basically you're trading your 4th pick into a first pick.
Into a first round pick.
So you have 2 first picks and then a second and a third.
So I had to take a hard look at our team and kind of make that decision. In its current state, could we compete at the highest level if these 5 girls were to come in? And, no matter how I looked at it, personally, I just kind of felt that maybe we would, fall to maybe 4th or kind of 5th in the standings. So we had to make some tough decisions, and, trading Vivian was kind of the first chip in that process. We picked up Elise Jones, and we knew we strengthened our right side player with Elise. So unfortunately, we did have to make a change with Rachel, who, played phenomenal in Atlanta. She was
did.
the number 1
Huge
girl.
props to Rachel Retker.
Yeah, she's she was number one girl. She was number two in the overall standings. So it was kind of an unfortunate position. But, you and I had reached out to you, obviously, and I reached out to everybody. And I think you were kind of our primary target.
And plot twist, Rachel's going to be back on the team temporarily in
Beer City.
Yeah, so she's off, but
yeah.
she's back.
Yeah, so we're very appreciative of that. So so yourself and Elise are not going to be able to participate in Beer City, and Rachel Recker is going to be filling in for Elise in that one, and Samantha
different
Parker.
blonde. You'll have a blonde. She just is a little different.
Right.
As you were saying, Samantha
Parker, is going to be filling in for Jill. But, so when we got Elise, it was 2 right side players, and we knew we had to make a change there and bring in another left side player. And I think, you were our number one target, and we worked out a deal. But yeah, and you explained on your podcast kind of the craziness that went on to actually make that happen. But fortunately, we did what we needed to do in the background, and we traded up and got that 5th pick, and we were able to select you.
Yeah, so it seems like the through line here is you've been the best at trading picks.
Yeah, that is a through line.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
I don't know how we can measure that stat, but it seems
but the
like
Breakers have
every
traded picks a
storyline
lot.
has been
You are the most pick
upgraded
trader.
pick placement.
Number one in pick trades, Geoff Nguyen.
Yes.
I think it's we knew what player we wanted to get, and in order to get them, we kind of knew where we needed to be as far as the pick went. So we sought after.
You know what?
the
That's
pick.
a really interesting way of expressing it. We knew who we wanted, and we knew the pick number we needed to relatively be to get that person.
Right.
I don't know if other team owners think that way.
We've talked about how gambling will or won't come into pickleball, but gambling on the results of the MLP draft, like you would be deadly because clearly you've predicted very well who's going to be left on the draft board and who would go when. Like I've been shocked every single year thinking I know they're going to go there, and then it's like the exact opposite. So
it's actually really interesting.
That would be a cool thing to be able to bet on.
Part of the draft process, Scott and I will actually kind of do a bunch of mock drafts. He'll do some, I'll do some, and we'll do some together. And we've been pretty close a lot of times. Obviously, there are always some surprises, but we've been surprisingly close on some of these drafts.
Speaking of surprises, which MLP rules changes, because there have been quite a few.
Yes.
Which of those changes have you appreciated the most, and what rule would you like to see changed?
So I actually like a lot of the rule changes that have taken place. So my favorite one is the entire format of MLP. So I love the fact that we're playing an entire season. I think that allows for the best team to finish in first place because it's about the overall record.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a single championship at the end of the season. So
there definitely have seemingly been some teams that squeaked through or barely didn't squeak through into the quarters in the past, going from the group stage play to the brackets where there's been a lot of, oh my gosh, like this is a matter of 3 points throughout 4 games or whatever.
Right.
So now you get that chance to really.
All right, so
exactly.
that's a change you like. Anything you don't
I actually,
like?
So I actually, another thing I actually liked was when we got rid of the freeze and we played a 25. So for me, without the freeze, I actually felt, that gives the opportunity to the better team to win. And I think for me in sports, I just think, when the team plays better, I think the better team should always win. But I think recently MLP did bring back the must win on serve.
Right.
So it changed the dynamic a little bit. So I'm kind of still feeling that out. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that yet, but I do think that because they brought that back, playing to 25 is making the matches a little bit too long. So I think we should I don't know if we should, but I think it would be nice to experiment with going back to playing to 21.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It's kind of taking a page out of the volleyball book, right? But in volleyball, if you win the first 2, you're done, unless you're playing a set to 5 or a match to 5 games, in which case they do that last one to 15. Yeah. Which, again, it's like shorten.
Right.
When you're playing 4 and you have to play 4 and it's 4 separate units, I think it does make sense. Maybe not to go to 25. That takes a bit.
Yeah, but I do think Courtney's doing a phenomenal job So she's
Courtney
the head of,
being the head referee.
yeah, head of competition.
She's the head of all the rule changes too.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize
so
that.
she's doing a phenomenal job. So I just think, things will end up working itself out in the end, as we, all the rule changes are just experiments at this point, and we'll eventually get to the right place.
Well, I think I like what Tim Parks said. Kristen, you always quote him on this.
Yeah. I heard Tim say once that, you should be making enough rule changes that sometimes you realize that change you made was not a good one, roll it back. And if you're not doing that every now and then, you're not pushing the sport far enough, forward enough.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
So, Geoff, what advice would you have for up-and-coming pros that would love to get noticed by a team owner? I know we recently had Pat Rolfus on the podcast, and you are partnered with The Hub, and he was talking about a Friday Night Fives opportunity that he was going to start, I think, pretty soon, where 5.0 players and above could come out and compete on Friday nights.
In front of owners.
Exactly. So, talk to me about what advice you'd have for any up-and-coming pros and your partnership with The Hub.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get to the partnership with the Hub and kind of how you can showcase, your abilities to a team owner or a GM. So the first way you can actually kind of showcase your talent is to compete in the APP or PPA, and kind of showcase your talents there. And, if you're winning matches, we're going to notice you.
Yeah.
I think that's step one. And then once we notice you, so let me just kind of go back a little bit. We once, prior to the draft, we actually hosted a combine for up and coming players in Utah. And we invited players that, we've noticed. And
did any of those players who were invited to the combine get drafted?
Yes, actually. So quite a few of them did. So
wow.
Mo Alhouni ended up getting drafted to the Las Vegas Night Owls.
I didn't realize he went to that.
Yeah, Chao Yuang was there.
She's getting good.
And they're on the same team even, aren't
they're
they?
on the same team. Apparently somebody from that team
Caitlin
came to
liked
our
what she
combine
saw, right?
secretly. I didn't know about it, but
that
they were
team
there.
owner wanted to make sure she got her money out of flying and going to the combine, the hotel room and everything.
Yeah, so actually quite a few players from the combine ended up getting drafted. So Rachel Recker was there also. But so similar to that, we would be we're planning on doing the same thing at the Hub in Northern California.
Nice.
So hosting combines for players that compete in the Friday night fives that Pat was talking about. So once he has those I don't know what he's calling it.
Something with fives in it.
Yeah, I don't really know what he was calling it.
Friday Night Fives?
Yeah, Friday Night Fives. So once Pat kind of hosts the Friday Night Fives and has the players that stand out, he'll let us know about that, and eventually we will host a combine.
Nice.
And allow those players to kind of showcase their talents for the ownership and for the coach.
That's super cool. You have such amazing partners, not just the Hub, but Next Shark. Tell us about Next Shark.
So Next Shark, that's a very exciting partnership for us. Next Shark is America's largest AAPI media distribution.
And tell our listeners if they don't know what AAPI is.
Oh, AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander. So Next Shark, their media kind of focuses on AAPI news. And so it's a great partnership for us. They have a huge reach. I believe it's 80 million impressions a month.
Wow.
That they have across 3 social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Wow.
And they have a huge engagement rate of that 80 million. I think they have 60 million engagement.
So they're broadcasting news about Bay Area Breakers, news about MLP.
Yeah. So
wow, that's amazing.
So you should follow Next Shark on
follow
Twitter,
Next Shark.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should probably do that soon.
And that's spelled out, Next Shark.
Next
You have a lot of
Shark, all
necks
one word.
where people skip that T, so keep the T.
Yeah, so that's an exciting partnership for us because our ownership group is actually entirely Asian American. And so, we're also in Northern California, which has Chinatown up there. It's a huge Asian American population. And that's kind of where we're focusing our marketing. We actually have a very exciting partnership that we're going to be announcing soon. I can't say anything about it quite yet, but that's coming up.
Wow. But they'll see it on the jersey at Beer City, maybe?
Yeah, we're hoping we're going to
next
debut it
couple.
in Beer City, but if not, then in Salt Lake. But that's coming soon. But
and if you're not, of course, already following Bay Area Breakers on social media, I'm sure there'll be an announcement when that goes through.
Absolutely, Breakers_MLP if you're not. But it just fits within our strategy as far as marketing goes. So we're very excited about that partnership with NextShark.
And in all of your free time that you have, you're also managing Pickleball Cares. Tell us about Pickleball Cares.
Yes. So Pickleball Cares, this is kind of a passion of mine. Pickleball Cares, I am very lucky to be the executive director of. It's a nonprofit 501c3 organization in which we are using pickleball to kind of enhance, the education, the physical health, mental health for youth across the country. So we're using pickleball by basically we're introducing pickleball to kids in underserved communities.
Wow.
We're hosting free clinics, typically in conjunction with Major League Pickleball events and some one-offs. We have one in Kansas City coming up.
Sign me up to do one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teach one.
We
I'd
always
love to.
need pros to come and help us teach these clinics. But we do target underserved communities, so we're doing all of our outreach towards underserved communities so that we have the right demographic. We're serving the right communities.
Love that.
And there will be an event, Tuesday of Beer City in...
Monday, actually.
Monday of Beer City?
Monday the
Is there-
8th in Beer City. We will be hosting a free clinic.
With Colin, correct?
Colin Schick will be there. Vivian Glozman will also be there.
Oh, nice.
Irina Terashenko, Tyra Black, Michelle Esquivel, and Rob Cassidy are all coming to help.
That's a
with
big
that
group.
thing.
I mean, do you
It's
get a
big
lot
group.
of kids?
So it ranges. We typically try to get 36 kids or so,
Oh,
but I
wow.
think this
That's
clinic
great.
we're targeting 50 kids.
And do the kids get to
Amazing.
leave with a paddle?
Like
and some-
every kid gets to go home with a new paddle.
is so cool.
And actually, in this case, your paddle sponsor is going to be the title sponsor for the Beer City
Amazing.
clinic.
Awesome.
They're
Go
providing,
Gamma.
yeah, they're providing.
I love finding out things like that on the pod.
Yeah.
Live, real time.
Yes.
Totally
We all
knew about
learn.
that. Not
We all
acting
learn.
surprised.
So this is actually the first time that we're going to be doing 2 clinics simultaneously, one for an intermediate group and one for a beginner group.
Oh, that's smart.
And so
Will
Gamma's
there
actually
be promotion and relegation within those groups?
Kristen.
that would actually be
Kristen
funny.
scouting
Sorry,
early.
this kid's way too good. You're up.
Yeah.
You were saying Gamma.
Yeah, but Gamma's actually going to be donating the Obsidian paddles for the intermediate group. And
Wow, those
then
are nice.
They're very nice paddles, so we're excited about that.
Wow.
And they're going to be providing all the balls and everything for the clinic.
Yeah, that chuck ball
Nice.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Great. So that clinic is full, or there's still room if someone wanted to sign up?
There is still room in the beginners
Okay.
clinic.
And
The
that is
intermediate
through
is full.
Pickleballcares.com?
Yeah, you can go to pickleballcares.org.
.org.
And you can sign up there.
And if someone wanted to learn more about clinics in general or how to donate or help and support Pickleball Cares, they should go to pickleballcares.org.
Correct. Our website is the best resource to learn about the organization and how to get involved.
Amazing.
Well,
And
Jeff,
there's also an event Saturday, you were saying, in Kansas as well, correct?
So no, the event on Saturday is actually here in Los Angeles at Pickletopia iPickle in
Okay.
I think that's in Whittier Narrows.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, 2 opportunities right there. If you've got a up and coming youth, does that go till age 18, age 16?
So age 6 to 17, that's
Okay.
our target demographic with the
Awesome.
kids.
Wow, you're really making an impact in this sport. And it's really cool to see people that aren't just taking, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're really pushing the sport forward in so many directions. We really thank you for
Yeah,
that
thank
and
you.
for being on the pod.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thanks
thank you for
having me.
drafting me. Thank you for
Absolutely,
hiring
we're
Kristen as
excited.
your assistant general manager. And thank you
Right.
for everything you're doing for Pickleball.
Yeah, you're helping me out so much already. It's a huge weight off my shoulders.
It's been fun. Hey, I can only imagine how much you have on your plate. So happy to take some off the load.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
So that was Geoff Nguyen. Hope you enjoyed our discussion. And I am very excited to be spending more and more time with Geoff, our head GM, to which I am the assistant. Really enjoyed working with him so far. He is a pickleball zealot, as you can tell, and definitely that kind of soft-spoken, intelligent, like when he speaks you want to listen type
Yeah.
of person.
Totally agree.
Unlike me, the loudmouth. We're opposite.
I still want to listen to you, babe.
Yin and yang.
Aw.
So we hope you enjoyed that pod. And that was pod 47.
Don't forget, you guys, pickleball is joy.
Don't let anyone tell you differently.
We out.
This pickleball life.
Jack it up.